The Lord Mayor slumps forward, dead. 5 cloaked figures with black-bladed knives emerge from the shadowed corners of the feast hall. A 6th figure, a red-robed lich, materializes in the center of the room. The tension peaks, and the DM says, "Roll initiative." Hey there, adventurers. My name is Judd, and this is Short Rest Studios, where we believe that fun builds community. If you dig content like this, please hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell, and check out the Adventurers Guild on Patreon. Rolling initiative is in the DNA of Dungeons & Dragons, but stopping to roll dice and do paperwork right when the excitement is highest inevitably pulls everyone out of the moment. Here are 3 initiative mechanics that are less obtrusive and keep the story and the excitement going. And stick around to the end because the 3rd one is fast, easy, and loads of fun. Draw initiative. There are some TTRPG systems that use cards for initiative rather than rolling dice. Savage Worlds, for instance. But one that I love is Dragonbane. You take 10 cards, numbers 1 through 10. The Dragonbane core set actually comes with 10 initiative cards. Each player draws a card at the beginning of each round. The GM draws cards for the NPCs and monsters. Players put their card next to their character sheet, and the GM puts the NPCs' cards in front of them so everyone can see who goes when. Then they each take their turn in ascending order with the number 1 going first. When everybody's taken their turn, you start the next round by drawing initiative again. The GM in Dragonbane can also use side initiative for NPCs if they want. You just draw 1 card for a group of NPCs, and that group acts on the same turn. It's a way to keep things simple, especially when there are a lot of enemies to keep track of. Players can also choose to wait. In that case, they just swap initiative cards with another creature whose turn comes after theirs. And they can't refuse the trait. You just can't swap with someone who's already gone or chose to wait earlier in the round. There are some advantages to drawing initiative like this in your D&D game. For example, it's quick and turn order is going to be immediately obvious, which will make starting your combat smoother. Drawing initiative can keep your combat encounters unpredictable, maybe even chaotic, as we might imagine real combat to be. The chaos of shifting turn orders can also encourage your players to improvise. This system also levels the playing field of initiative. Those characters with high dex, like rogues, lose the advantage of using their dex bonus, giving characters with lower dex an equal opportunity to go earlier in the turn order. There are also disadvantages. For instance, it can make planning your next move a little hard when the turn order changes every round. It could also wreak havoc on some player or monster abilities, and it can make tracking the effects of things like Bless or Stunning Strike confusing, which can actually slow down combat. And if you really don't want combat to slow down, hit that like button. I think to use this system effectively in 5e, you'd need to use side initiative for NPCs and monsters whenever possible to keep things going at a good pace. And you want to make sure to set some house rules for how initiative-based conditions like Bless will work. The Wandering Tavern is a sprawling 180-plus page system-agnostic, Studio Ghibli-inspired floating city from today's sponsor, Homie and the Dude. You get optional D&D 5e stats, huge battle maps, loads of unique NPCs, and cool magic items to protect yourself from the twisted spirits stalking the halls. With plot hooks that lead to dark forgotten secrets, black market empires, and more, there are endless tales to tell in the Wandering Tavern. Hit the link in the description and use code SHORTREST to get 20% off your order. Choose a stance. This one is pretty drastically different from what D&D players are used to. The One Ring, which is a beautiful RPG set in Tolkien's Middle-earth, has an interesting initiative mechanic that basically allows players to choose their turn order, but it's done in a way that keeps them immersed in the story. At the beginning of close quarters combat, each player chooses a stance. Forward improves your attacks, but also makes you more vulnerable. Open is sort of the standard combat stance. Defensive makes your attacks less potent, but also makes attacks against you less powerful. And rearward puts you out of the melee. You can only attack or be attacked with ranged weapons. The players go first in stance order: forward, open, defensive, and rearward. Then the enemies go. At the beginning of the next round, you each choose stances and it all happens again. There are a lot of upsides to using an initiative system like this in 5e. Since initiative is tied to something the characters choose to do in the moment, it keeps up immersion in a way that D&D initiative just does not. And this also gives players more agency in how they approach combat, and it creates some cool opportunities for role-playing inside combat. The barbarian's probably more likely to choose a forward stance, and the wizard will probably want rearward. Like Dragonbane's system, the changing of stances each round introduces some unpredictability. Plus, a system like this really encourages your party to coordinate actions, to plan, and be tactical. Now the downsides. The same things that make it cool can cause some bottlenecks. If you got players that tend to overthink, they might spend so long picking a stance or formulating a plan with the other party members that it slows things down. It can create some imbalance with certain types of characters tending to go first. Also, some people like the randomness of rolling or drawing for initiative, and you definitely don't have that. In fact, if you couple this with the fact that the players always go first, it can get kind of predictable. And anytime you change the way initiative works, you'll have to figure out how certain player and monster abilities are going to work with the new system. Like, how is your rogue going to use sneak attack? What stance should they choose? And what happens when two players use the same stance? If I were going to use this system in D&D, I'd want to homebrew some ways again for those initiative-based abilities to function. I'd also take a look at the One Ring's rules for opening volleys, which come before the close quarters combat we're talking about here, and what to do when one party outnumbers the other. And I'd probably use Dex as a tiebreaker when two players choose the same stance. If you want an initiative system that's more immersive and lends itself to a tactical feel that's more like a skirmish game, this might be one to check out. I bet some of you have initiative options that you like, and I would love to hear about them. Drop them in the comments. In fact, tell us about some that you've tried and that didn't work out so well too. Be Nimble. One of my favorite initiative systems feels very close to D&D, and that's because it comes from Nimble, a game that began life as a way to streamline 5e, but now exists as its own system. In Nimble, each player rolls a d20 plus their initiative bonus, just like in 5e. But here's where the wild fun kicks in. Initiative in Nimble does not determine turn order. The player that's ready first, or the player that would make the most sense in the narrative, goes first, and play proceeds clockwise around the table. When the PCs finish their turns, the monsters have a go. That's a fast and easy way to do turn order. But you're probably wondering what the point of that roll is. In Nimble, characters get 3 actions per turn, but their initiative roll determines how many actions they get in the first round. A single digit, that character gets 1 action. 2 digits, and they start combat with 2. A 20 or above, and they get all 3 actions on their first turn. The advantages, well, first of all, it is blazing fast. You still stop and roll before the first round of combat, but you don't have to keep track of turn order. You just jump right in. And again, giving players the choice of when to take their turn gives them more agency and encourages teamwork. And this system, by nature, just integrates better into your narrative flow than standard 5e initiative. It's flexible. It creates the opportunity for more tactical depth, and it has huge potential to up the action. Like with all the systems I've mentioned, using Nimble's initiative mechanics in D&D 5e has some drawbacks. Leaving the decision of turn order up to your players might cause some confusion if they're used to a more rigid system like 5e. If your players get multiple actions, it can throw your encounters out of whack with the advantage going to the characters. That might be fun for a little while, but I think it would get pretty old before too long. And of course, this system will mess with initiative-based abilities and conditions. If the fast, flexible, simple nature of initiative and Nimble appeals to you, I mean, honestly, maybe you should just switch to Nimble. It is designed to be compatible with 2014 and 2024 D&D. But if you don't want to do that, you'll want to put together some rules that determine how those initiative-based conditions and abilities come into play. And I'd say keep the player's actions in line with standard D&D rules, except for the first round of combat. Then if they get 2 or 3 actions based on that initiative roll, they get a fun chance to start the fight off with a bang. And maybe you want to do the same for your monsters. Let their initiative rolls work the same way. There you go, adventurers. 3 initiative rules to try in D&D 5e. Let me know in the comments if you've got some options that you like or that you don't like. Check out one of these videos, and I'll see you next time on Short Rest Studios.